Instant on water heaters. What are they? How do they work? Hi, this is Jim from RV4x40.com. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. We're happy you joined us today. We're going to take a look at a device called a tankless water heater, also called an instant-on water heater. And our 2014 Phaeton came installed with this particular type of water heater as opposed to the regular tanked water heater, which on this coach would typically be a 10-gallon water heater and fired either by gas or electric. So this happens to be a PrecisionTemp device. It's an RV-550 by model number. So what I'm going to talk about is very specific to this RV and this model number, and other types of tankless water heaters will have different specs. They may operate differently. They may have different good features and bad features. So this is not intended to be a blanket review of the industry or how different ones work, but wants to talk just about our specific one. It's mounted on the back of the motorhome behind this panel right here, so you have an access point for how to get to it, and we'll show you what it looks like on the inside as well. Fairly common for access panels to have a single screw like this one does. The coin works quite well. You can use a screwdriver, of course, as well. This one is not a hinged cover, as you can see, so we need to take it off and lay it down where it won't get scratched. Now, the first thing you might notice about this particular water heater, and it's hard to tell, but it is actually smaller than a standard tanked water heater you would find in a motorhome, particularly the 10-gallon tank in this one. And so it takes up less space on the inside. That's a good thing. Another good thing about the tankless water heater is you aren't carrying around, say, 10 gallons worth of water. That's over 80 pounds of extra weight, plus the weight of the tank itself. So you do save some weight by having one of these. That means the manufacturer can put in less structure to hold it because it doesn't have the weight. And the way it works, in the video, hopefully you can see this, but here is a copper heat exchanger, if you will, and there's a flame system down below, typical gas flame, fairly broad flame. It's spread out quite a bit, and the water simply flows around this copper to transfer the heat from the flame into the water as it flows by. So you never have water in the tank to get hot or keep hot. That's one of the energy saving things that works for you. And there's a sensor in here that, when working normally, will only turn the flame on when there's water flowing. And that gives you fairly quick response time. There's not a lot of mass here to heat up. So with a gas flame of reasonable size, you can get the water hot up to the temperature you want within a few seconds. So it's not really instant on in the sense there's no delay. It is a short time period. Once you have the water running, the good news about these is you can run as much water as you want and never run out of hot water. With a 10-gallon tank or a 6-gallon tank or whatever you have, at some point you've depleted the hot water enough and the flame can't keep up with adding heat in, so the water in the tank will start to cool down slowly, and so you have less and less hot water available. So for people who want to take long showers and that kind of thing, these are great. However, that also gets into some of the limitations. For one thing, if you have a lot of water going in the shower, you're either going to put a lot of water in your gray tank and use a lot of your fresh water, or if you're in a campground like we are right now, you can leave the gray water drain open. You have plenty of supply coming in, so you can take those long showers if you want to. That's the good news. The bad news is, if you're boondocking, you do have some things that go on here that are not quite as good. The main thing is, you really can't shut the hot water off and on with the like an on-off control on your shower valve like you would do in a typical shower, because when you turn it off, this gas flame is going to go out, so you no longer have hot water. Now there's water in the line going to your shower, so you have a little bit of water there. But when you turn the shower head back on, the water has to start flowing. There is a time delay for the sensor in the tank to decide that you have water flowing and enough water. There is a sensor for how much water has to actually flow. If you don't have enough water flowing, even if the faucet is on, you won't get hot water. So after the flow starts up again and then the gas comes on, it has to go through the control system, kick the gas on, and then the flame finally comes up. It's not long, but it's a few seconds, and if you're in the shower, what happens is you get first the little bit of hot water that's in the line still, then you get cold water because it's what's flowing in the system, and then it takes a few minutes, it takes a few seconds for the water to get hot enough and get back up to where you're taking a shower. So you do have some extra flow there, and that becomes a problem because if you're, again, boondocking, you're putting that gray water in your tank perhaps, although you can catch it in a bucket, which we do when we boondock, but you're using more water and you're using more gas because of this on-off process. The other claim that's made about these things is they use less gas to heat the water, and I don't doubt the claim. I think that's probably true because you're not heating up that large mass of 80 gallons of water or whatever it is. However, that assumes you're using only gas to heat your water. Again, in a campground like we are with full hookups, and we're not paying extra for electricity, so if we had an option to use electric heat for our hot water, we wouldn't be paying anything for it. As it is, we have to use propane for the hot water, even when we have full electric hookup. So that is a downside. Not particularly bad because we have a large propane tank, but it's something to consider. If you're completely stationary and using strictly propane, you may have to deal with that extra propane usage. The other problem, and it's one unique to us, perhaps unique to this model, but we did find, and this is one of the real bad downsides I have found in this system, the way the controls, there comes an airplane. One of the downsides I found in this particular system, and I will stress that this is this particular model year, they may have changed the problem in what they're doing. Other systems may work differently. But in this system, we found there is a single point failure. That is one item in the control system that can fail that then gets you very hot water. I was actually able to measure temperatures above 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which is well above a safe point for your skin. And I think the temperature was actually higher than that. I was limited in ways I had to measure the temperature, and there's a response time on the thermometer. So I think the water was closer to boiling at that particular point because we would get steam actually out of a hot water faucet when we turned the hot water on, and they burst. There was steam involved, the water was splattering, and my wife actually did get a minor burn from being too close to the faucet when she turned it on and wasn't thinking about this. The reason is that, as this is my understanding of this particular system, it may be not totally correct, they do have a hot water temperature shutdown. If the water gets too hot, it's supposed to turn the system off. The problem, however, is the water has to be flowing for that temperature to get to where the sensor is located. And so in our case, the water was turned off. The gas flame did not extinguish as it should have. Again, one failure, one relay that was sticking caused the gas to stay on until the whole thing got hot enough to increase the pressure, where actually the pressure relief valve would spit out water. That allowed some water to flow that got the sensor hot enough, and then the emergency override, if you will, would shut the system down. And I'm sure that's what was happening because to reset that, you have to cycle the power off and back on. So to me, that is a very significant issue with this particular device. Again, it may not be true in other instant-on water heaters, but it's one of the reasons I really don't like this. I will give a lot of credit to PrecisionTemp, the people who made this, because they were excellent in their support on the phone, helping me walk through this and look at various things and check various settings. And finally, their technician there was instrumental in helping me find that it was a relay. Turned out to be a standard automotive relay. I went to an automotive parts store, found the relay, and that has fixed a particular problem. But as a design engineer, I really think there are some issues with this particular design that could have been done better, but do want to give the company credit for giving me a lot of help in figuring out how to do that. So as I said, other systems may have different safety mechanisms. This in other models or later years may have changed their safety mechanisms, so it may or may not be applicable to you. But I did want to pass that along because it's a situation I have never encountered with a tanked water heater. Not to say they don't have their own problems and their own ways to fail, but they will typically fail without hot water rather than letting it get too hot before something shuts down. And then there is another issue that we have found in trying to take a shower. My wife and I like different temperatures in the shower. She prefers the water significantly warmer than I do when I take a shower, which in a normal water heater system is no particular problem. You simply turn the valve, mix more cold water in with your hot water, control the temperature that way. And that still works with this system. The problem is with the shower in particular, because of the fairly low water flow in a shower, when you turn the hot down and increase the amount of cold that's coming out of the shower head, you very quickly reach a point where, in this particular device, it no longer produces hot water at all because you aren't pulling enough hot water. There is a minimum flow, I believe it's a ½ gallon per minute on this particular water heater. If you don't have enough water flowing out of the hot water system, you will get a situation where the gas turns off and you have no hot water at all. So real light flows, that's a problem. And in the shower, that's been a problem. There's a simple solution to that. Again, as long as you're in a full hookup site, it works quite well. And that is you simply turn on a hot water faucet at the sink and have a small flow of hot water there that kind of acts as a bias to make sure there's enough water flowing in this system to keep the gas on. Then you can adjust the shower temperature pretty much to wherever you want it. So in a nutshell, that's what we found about this particular type of water system. If I had it to do over again, and this was a used coach, so we didn't have a choice of what came in it, I would probably look for one that did not have this particular kind of system. I think boondocking becomes a real problem because you have to keep the water flowing all the time to keep the hot water. Means if you're going to collect it and cycle it back to your fresh water tank, you have to have a lot bigger bucket in the shower with you to keep the water flowing into the bucket instead of going down the drain when it's doing nothing but flowing to keep the water hot. So I would not do this. I did talk to Tiffin about the possibility of swapping this out, and they told me it would be a major undertaking because they sized this coach for this particular one. It does not have the support in place to hold the weight of a 10-gallon water tank in here, and the opening is too small. You'd have to actually cut some of the sidewall out, which wouldn't be a big deal because you'd still cover it with part of the hardware. But the big thing is there's no 110-volt wiring behind this. You'd have to run that wiring, and two, you'd have to figure out how to add braces, weld those in, or construct those inside of the coach somehow, which is extremely difficult once the sides are on. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope you found this information useful. And again, I want to stress that this is about one particular installation of one particular model from one particular manufacturer. So I don't want to give you the impression that I know anything about anyone else's tankless water heater system, so don't take it that way. But maybe this information will give you some things to look for if you're considering getting an RV with a tankless water system or converting your existing tanked water system to a tankless. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you have a great day. Join us on the highways and byways of America as we travel around. See you next week. Oh, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button down below and click the bell icon to be notified every time we post a new video on YouTube. Thanks again.